Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Let's see who we have here. Jennifer is an audiologist, and her 17-year-old son has type 1 diabetes. Her husband has celiac. Her and her mother both have PCOS, and her mother and grandmother have type 2 diabetes. We talk about the onset, diagnosis, possible thyroid issues with her son, and much more, including insurance and dealing with renewals, and a little bit about exercise. Nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan. If you're newly diagnosed, check out the Bold Beginnings series. Find it at juiceboxpodcast.com up in the menu, in the featured tab of the private Facebook group, or go into the audio app you're listening in right now and search for Juicebox Podcast Bold Beginnings. Juicebox is one word, Juicebox Podcast Bold Beginnings. This series is perfect for newly diagnosed people. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by CozyEarth.com. Cozy Earth is where I get my clothing, linens, and towels from. They are incredibly comfortable and temperate. I love them. I really do love them. And I love that I can give you an offer code that will save you 40% off of your entire order. Just use the offer code JUICEBOX at checkout and you will save 40% at CozyEarth.com. The episode you're about to enjoy was brought to you by Dexcom. The Dexcom G7, the same CGM that my daughter wears. You can learn more and get started today at my link, dexcom.com/juicebox. Friends, Touched by Type 1's walk is coming up quickly on March 8th. That's a Saturday at Lake Eola Park in Orlando, Florida. Go now to Touched by Type 1 to sign up and register. It's completely free. You're going to have a wonderful time. touchedbytype1.org. Go to the programs tab, click on Steps to a Cure.
I'm Jennifer. I live on Long Island, New York. And my son, Mason, is 17. He was diagnosed 3 years ago. You know, it's just a journey that we've all been on together. Wow. And I appreciate this podcast because it has definitely been life-changing for us.
Oh, I'm so glad. All right. So listen, I'm going to have to old school do notes on paper today. So I'm sorry, but my whiteboard is filled up with stuff about Arden's college that I can't erase. I just realized. I looked up at my whiteboard to start writing. I'm like, I can't move any of that. Mason is 17?
Correct.
Diagnosed at?
14.
And you have other kids or no?
I have an almost 24-year-old son and an almost 20-year-old daughter.
Okay. Do they have any autoimmune issues?
Nope.
Okay. And married?
I am married. Mm-hmm. My husband has celiac.
Gotcha. So you see where I'm getting to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't actually care if you're married. I just want to know if your husband has celiac. That's all. How about you?
I have PCOS. My sister has it. My mother had it. Well, I mean, she's alive, but I think at some point after menopause, you kind of gave up. Yeah. I'm fairly sure my grandmother had it. So my grandmother had type 2. My mom has type 2. I can tell you, no one in my family is typical PCOS. Like our only issues are infertility and lack of menstruation.
Okay. How about your daughter?
My daughter actually is fine. You know, I was very concerned. And so I did bring her to the gynecologist, you know, in a timely manner, but she is showing no signs of PCOS at all.
Wow. Well, that's maybe some good luck finally on that front.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is very strange, but can you help me pick a woman to cut my hair before we move on? So I had this screen up in front of me before we got on and I ran out of time, but I'm going on vacation in a couple of days and I really need my haircut. So here are my options. My regular person is not available. I guess she has a life too or something. I'm between Alyssa and Bailey, but I really don't know the difference between the two of them. Can you just see which one like grabs you. What do you like better, Alyssa or Bailey?
Am I just choosing based on the name?
I mean, I don't have any other things to say about them.
I mean, I think if you're just getting a trim, it doesn't really matter. As long as you're not going drastic, I think you'll be okay.
All right.
Why don't you bring a picture of, how you like the way your hair looks? And have them cut it.
They're always like, what do you want to do with your hair? I'm like, cut it. Just like.
Well, you could also come visit me here and I'll take you to my girl.
Yeah. I don't know I don't know if I have that kind of time. There's a guy there that I like, but he's very expensive and I don't see the need. Do you know what I'm saying? Like at some point,
You're probably talking to the wrong person because I literally get my hair cut twice a year. So I don't know.
I'm going with Alyssa.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what? I recognize her. That's enough.
So these are people that are at the place you normally go to, but your person is not available.
You're making sense. Yeah. It seems that my person might be on vacation, which I mean, good for her and all, but I'm trying to go on vacation. I'm going to take the 3:30. I got to log in. Can you believe this is even how you like set up a haircut at this point?
Well, I'm kind of happy. I don't really like talking on the phone much. So I do like the fact that I can use an app or go on the computer.
Yeah. I love talking to people on the phone, but that's probably not like a big surprise.
Oh, I love talking. I just don't love talking on the phone.
Oh, no kidding. How come?
Yeah. I don't know. It's been an anxiety producing thing since I was a child.
How are you going to do with this then?
Because I don't feel like I'm on the phone, even though I kind of wish I was looking straight at you. I don't feel like I'm on the phone.
Okay. So that's the answer. If you were holding the phone to your ear, do you think this would be more upsetting?
Yes. Yeah. I feel like I don't confidently hear as well. And it's not like I have a hearing problem. I mean, I'm an audiologist. I know all about hearing, but I can hear you really great in the headphones. So to me, it's like we're in person.
You're an audiologist?
A non-practicing, yes.
Did you practice at some points?
I did. I stopped when my second was born.
Okay. My wife says that she has something.
Tinnitus? She has
No, it's like this
ears?
delayed. Hold on a second. She's going to be so pissed if she ever hears one day that I can't think of this because I don't want to say we make fun of her, but everybody brings it up all the time. Hold on. I'm texting her. What's your hearing thing called? Sorry. It's very technical.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't worked in so long. I hope I recognize what she says.
Wouldn't that be something if you're like, I don't know what that is? I'm sorry. I'm not that kind of audiologist. While I'm waiting for Kelly to get back to me with her hearing issue, I just want to dig a little farther into the phone thing. So, like, what is it about? Is it anxiety?
So I can tell you a story. I had my own phone line in high school. I inherited my sister's phone line when she left for college. Mm-hmm. And I would get, solicitors calling. For instance, Newsday would call to try and, recruit a subscription. And I literally could not say to them, no, thank you, I'm not interested. I just couldn't say those words. So I would go downstairs into my kitchen. I would stand in my kitchen for as long as I could till the person just hung up. Because I just couldn't say it. And I just have this aversion to talking on the phone. You can ask my husband, when I speak on the phone, I speak on the speaker. I don't like holding it to my ear. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
So when you get one of those calls, it's like, hey, I'd like to tell you about solar panels. You spend 10 good minutes listening about solar panels?
Oh, no. Now I'm like, no, thank you. And I hang up. I don't even give them a chance to try and sell it to me. I just hang up. No, thank you. Hang up.
So this kid comes to our door the other day, right? He's like, I don't know.
Oh, I wouldn't answer the door.
18, 19 years old. I open the door. He's standing there with a clipboard and he goes, hey, sir. And I went, I'm not interested. Thank you. And he goes, okay, thanks. And then he starts to take a step backwards. And then it hits him. He never even told me why he was there. And he said, well, maybe you would be interested. Good for him, by the way. He said, maybe you'd be interested if you knew what I was here for. And I said, no, I don't think that would matter. And I walked back inside.
Well, that was, ballsy of him. That is true. But I could never I would never apply for a job where I had to ask for business. Like I worked in my husband's office for a little while and I would not make phone calls about collecting money. I would make a phone call confirming appointments, but there's no way I would call and ask for money. I asking people things, it's just not for me.
One of my first adult jobs was collecting debts.
Oh,
and
gosh.
It was back before computers were what they are now. So you were basically on a dialer. You weren't in control of the calls, just came, right? So you're wearing a headset and you would be connected with the person before their information was on the screen. So you had to hook them, get them talking while it populated. And there was that anxiety every time. Am I going to run out of things to say? Or am I going to lose this person on the phone call before I can actually say, hey, I'm calling from, what was it? Advanta Bank, maybe? Was that what it was? It was crazy, but I would do that at 8 hours at a time. And then every time you clicked complete, there was just another person in your ear.
Do you know your stats as to how successful you were collecting those dates, those debts?
I was fucking great at it. I was I was really, really good at it. But eventually I stopped doing it genuinely because it just broke my heart. I couldn't. You get someone on the phone, and listen, a lot of people are lying, but some of them aren't. And after you've heard about their husband's cancer or their house burning down or their kid got sick, and then you realize that it is your job to the next thing you say is, I'm very sorry to hear about that. When can I expect you to send a payment?
Yeah.
Yeah. And one day I was like, I can't keep doing this. So I stopped. And I went on to do it in a much more low pressure situation, like at a credit union where it wasn't really collections. It was just friendly reminders that they didn't pay. And oftentimes they were just like, oh, I'm so sorry. Just move it out of my account. You were almost just doing, it was almost like clerical. And, but even at some point that got to me, I one time found myself telling a person, bring 3 payments, bring it to the branch, have it here by 3:00, or I am going to have somebody show up at your house and tow your car away. And I was like, I got off that call and I was like, what am I doing? What do I give a fuck about this? You know what I mean? It was just soul crushing. Yeah, I went down to the human resources department and I was like, I need a different job here. I can't keep doing this. So, but
I think you found your calling.
Yeah, this is way better. Seriously.
I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Helping people is much better than making them feel terrible, even though it's not your fault. I didn't tell them to buy the car. I didn't fire them from their job. I didn't give their husband cancer. You know what I mean? But still, it just sucks. So anyway, all right. What were first signs of Mason having type 1? How did you recognize it? The Dexcom G7 is sponsoring this episode of the Juicebox Podcast, and it features a lightning fast 30-minute warm-up time. That's right. From the time you put on the Dexcom G7 till the time you're getting readings, 30 minutes. That's pretty great. It also has a 12-hour grace period, so you can swap your sensor when it's convenient for you. All of that on top of it being small, accurate, incredibly wearable, and light. These things, in my opinion, make the Dexcom G7 a no-brainer. The Dexcom G7 comes with way more than just this. Up to 10 people can follow you. You can use it with type 1, type 2, or gestational diabetes. It's covered by all sorts of insurances. And this might be the best part. It might be the best part. Alerts and alarms that are customizable so that you can be alerted at the levels that make sense to you. Dexcom.com/juicebox. Links in the show notes. Links at juiceboxpodcast.com to Dexcom and all the sponsors. When you use my links, you're supporting the production of the podcast and helping to keep it free and plentiful. Valentine's Day is approaching quickly, and wouldn't it be great if this year you weren't running around the grocery store looking for some flowers? You know what I mean? That thing that you bring in the house and everybody's like, oh, they forgot. Don't forget this year. Go to CozyEarth.com and make Valentine's Day special for everybody. While you're at it, use my offer code JUICEBOX at checkout to save 40% off of your entire order. And that order might include bamboo sheets for your bed. These are so soft and comfortable. They keep me nice and warm. They keep my wife nice and cool. How do they do that? I don't know, but they're temperate. And the quality is unsurpassed. Cozy Earth bamboo pajamas are soft, breathable, high quality, and they wash incredibly well. And if you're listening right now and you need something for your husband, how about something from Cozy Earth's men's collection? They have pajamas, polos, joggers, hats. I'm wearing the joggers right now. They are awesome. So surprise your Valentine with Cozy Earth and get 40% off at CozyEarth.com when you use the offer code JUICEBOX. And don't forget, if you're asked in a post-purchase survey how you found out about Cozy Earth, say Juicebox Podcast. Help me out. Fair's fair. I just saved you from coming in the house with wilted flowers.
The end of April of 2021, I get a phone call from the nurse at school. And she said, Mason's fine. I'm just calling to tell you that he got hit in the face with a ball and he has some blood on his clothes. He was in 8th grade. And I'm like, okay. She's like, he's fine. While I have you on the phone, a couple of teachers have expressed concern as to how thin he's been looking. And my heart just sank because there really is like a long backstory. But at that moment, I knew something was wrong. I had no idea that it was type 1, but I knew something was wrong. So I hung up the phone. I called the doctor, made an appointment, and I couldn't get an appointment until the following week. I guess it was an emergency, but wasn't. So whatever, we go to the doctor. Now, keep in mind, this is COVID and, going to the doctor was not typical.
Yeah.
Like you had to go with a mask. You had to cancel if somebody had COVID in your family. And Mason hadn't seen the doctor for an entire year because his birthday's January. COVID just happened. And so he hadn't been seen in a year.
Yeah.
I want you to know that Mason in September of 2020 was very heavy. He is not my sporty child, probably not the best eating habits, despite, me eating a salad every single day and working out every day. But he was at his heaviest. But the doctor never saw him at his heaviest. I knew he was heavy. And I'm like, we need to do something about this. So I tried running with him. We got a lot of the sweets out of the house. My husband is a pediatric dentist, and he was, fitting him with some appliances to open his airway because he was a mouth breather. And, we were trying all sorts of things, and the weight did start coming off. And I was like, this is great. Whatever we're doing is working. He's exercising. He's also growing. And so between September and that April, he lost a lot of weight, but he had never been to the doctor. So I didn't know how much weight he had lost. And I was just pleased that he was looking more like the size he should be for his height.
I hear.
Okay. So we go to the doctor, and please, I have great mommy guilt, but he had lost like close to 40 pounds.
Okay.
And so the doctor's like, so he was about 5 feet, 100 pounds, which in my head, like I'm 5 feet, 100 pounds. And I've always been, on target. So I'm like, all right, this is where he should be. And the doctor said, and I showed him a picture of what he looked like since the doctor hadn't seen him. And he said, Mason, I'm really proud of you for losing this weight, but you really shouldn't lose much more. So, keep exercising, but let's try not to lose any more weight. Okay. And sends him for blood work. Included in the blood work were celiac stuff, since my husband has it. I guess because that's like considered genetic, that doesn't come back the next day. So the blood work took about a week to come back. And that was May 13th. So May 13th, I get the results to my portal. And I mean, I know science a bit because I'm in the healthcare field, and I saw his thyroid was off, his cholesterol was off. I immediately called the doctor, left a message, please call me so we can discuss these results, because I'm sure I got the results before he did. These days that happens. And Mason comes home from school and he says, I want to join the track team. And I'm like, okay. So we go to the sneaker store because I still haven't heard from the doctor, pick him up a new pair of sneakers. And as I'm walking out of the door, the doctor calls me and he says, everything is going to be fine. We will work this out. Now,
that's his lead.
So that's his lead, because at the top of the results was a celiac, and it was very questionable.
Mm-hmm.
So he looked at those and saw celiac, and he assumed that he was, having some kind of nutritional deficiency, and that's why he was losing all this weight. And I said, did you scroll down to the rest of his results? Because his blood sugar was 436.
And you saw that?
I saw that.
Okay.
And during the day, I called up my friend who's a nurse, and I'm like, oh my God, I think Mason has type 1 diabetes. And she's like, tell me his results. So I'm reading it. She's like, I don't know. Sometimes when the thyroid is off, it can throw off the blood sugar, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, I am telling you, this kid has diabetes. So then the doctor called, and I said, I need you to scroll down to the rest of the results because something's not right.
Also, could you read this before you call?
I know.
Can you imagine if he's like, hey, Jennifer, what's up?
I do love him. I really do.
Nothing to worry about. Your vitamin D's a little low here. Yeah. Everything's fine. Oh, wait, what's this? Oh, I'm so sorry. You have a brain tumor. I didn't see that before I called. Yeah, like, what the hell? Go ahead.
I do love him.
Yeah, I hear you.
He did right by me. He said, okay, I need you to come to the office right now. How fast can you get there? And I'm holding the box of the sneakers in my hand with Mason next to me. I'm like, I'll be there in 20 minutes.
You should have said we can be there pretty quick because people move faster in new sneakers.
So we go to the office, and all he did was dip his urine. And he's like, you need to go to the ER right now. And I just knew it. And again, this is COVID, so only one parent was allowed. Right. And now, granted, I'm in the healthcare field, but my husband is really immersed in the healthcare field, being a pediatric dentist. And so I knew he was going to be like, I'm going to the hospital with him. But I was like, oh no, I'm the mom. I'm going.
Mom trumps doctor, right? Yeah.
I have to say he was taken pretty quickly under the circumstances. He was not in DKA, amazingly. They tested his A1C in the hospital, which was 16.7. They tested for antibodies while we were there. And we left with a diagnosis of type 1. They did not admit us. They said, you can go home. Please come back at 10 o'clock tomorrow. You have an appointment with the endocrinologist. He can only eat eggs, cheese, and bacon. And I'm like, okay, none of which he eats, but that's besides the point. And we went back the next day and spent the entire day at the endocrinologist's office. And, he left there with a Freestyle Libre. We got a Dexcom probably the following week, because I think the doctor would prefer that.
Okay.
But they only had the Libre in the office. We left doing shots, and it was life-changing, as I'm sure you know.
I bet you it was. Well, how did he handle it? What was do you remember his initial takeaways?
I think he was really tired, if you really want to know the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I think it really hit him about a week later, because we were in the kitchen, and all of a sudden he was like, oh my God, I cannot see very well. And he was like freaking out. His vision was all blurry.
Okay.
And my cousin is an optometrist. I called him up, and I'm like, and he knew of Mason's diagnosis. I was like, what's going on? And he's like, don't worry about it. It's his blood sugar regulating. He's had a lot of sugar in his eyes. It's his vision getting back to normal. His vision actually wasn't normal, and now it's getting back to normal. And I think that moment for Mason scared the bejesus out of him.
So it's the first thing that was like tangible to him, that he's like, I have a health issue.
Totally.
Yeah, I see.
I mean, he had been doing shots for a week at that point, but I think the vision thing really scared him.
If I remember correctly, the shots at the beginning, you don't really have it in you yet, the understanding that this is like every time forever and ever. Like, it still feels like, oh, I went to the doctor and there's a thing I have to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, go home and take this pill twice a day for 10 days, like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was my expectation my expectation wasn't that it was just going to stop. But there's just that part of it that where you're not like, oh, this is really forever. Like, it doesn't hit you right away.
I completely agree.
Oh, it sucks. The vision thing gets him. And did he cry? Did he ever have like an emotional experience?
If he did, not in front of me. He's a very easygoing kid. He is my easiest child.
Mm-hmm.
He goes with the flow. I know this is going to sound weird, but of all three of my kids, he's the one who would totally handle this the best. And he just, he has risen to the occasion. I'm sure it doesn't thrill him to be hooked up to all this technology 24/7. And he has to think about every morsel of food he puts in his mouth. And, he can't leave the house empty-handed or go anywhere empty-handed. But so far, knock wood, he does what he needs to do.
Arden and I spent the day out yesterday, and we were driving hour and 15 minutes away from our house. We were going to spend some time, do a thing, go to another place, go shopping for, we're going on vacation. We needed some clothes and stuff like that. We were gone for like 6 or 7 hours, and we brought so many diabetes supplies. And like we had pumps and insulin and a CGM and like extra stuff and this little bag in the car, this whole thing. And we never needed one of those things.
No, but listen, better safe than sorry.
100%, right? Like I would always bring it. I would never not. But there's this moment when you get out of the car and you grab it and you think, oh, all the effort before we left and like keep it cold and put insulin on, it was like, oh, we didn't even need it. And
it's exhausting.
Yeah, that.
It's exhausting. Yeah. And, like you, there probably has been very few nights of a full night of sleep. It's just, unless you live it, you don't understand.
Right. Well, hey, did he end up having celiac?
No, we did go to a gastroenterologist and they tested him again later on, and he doesn't. So I don't know if it was a false positive. I have no idea. But I mean, I think it's something they're going to test him for regularly. But
sure. And no thyroid?
So his thyroid, I don't understand thyroid too much. One of his levels has been questionable on and off. And so at this point, our endocrinologist is testing him every 6 months for that. But
is it TSH?
Yes.
And is it over 2?
Oh, I don't have results in front of me. I don't know.
Let me keep asking questions. Does he have thyroid symptoms? Is he tired?
I mean, he's a little chunkier than I'd like, but
that's one of them.
No.
So trouble regulating his weight. Does his hair fall out?
No. Oh my gosh. No, he has a full head of amazing hair.
So let me say this though. Is he still 5 feet tall?
No, he is 5'9".
Okay. Is that the height you expected, or is your husband like 9 feet tall and you're like, oh, I can't believe he's only 5'9"?
My husband's 5'11", and my son is like 5'9". My other son is 5'9".
And you're 5 feet tall.
Not yet. I'm 4'11" and a half.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm just wondering because a mismanaged thyroid during growing could lead to, height issues and size issues.
Yeah, we are due for blood work in the next 2 weeks. So that's on the list. I don't ignore it. I do address it with the doctor when it's taken.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say this, a TSH over 2.1 that has thyroid symptoms, I would push a doctor to talk about medicating it, the number to get the number under 2, if you could. And they're going to tell you it's in range. Like if his TSH is 4, they're going to say that's in range. But there's some really great content in the podcast about thyroid to help you understand that a little better.
I know your wife had that issue too.
Everyone does. Cole does. Kelly does. Arden does. One of Arden's friends is been talking to me recently. I'm like, is this catchy or something? Because she's like, I think my TSH is high, and I'm like, and she starts going over her symptoms, and I'm actually helping her because she's 20 and sort of her parent. There's a language issue with their parents. So her parent is not incredibly helpful in this stuff usually. And so, she's 20 years old on the phone with the doctor going like, look, I don't want a 4 TSH. I have a lot of symptoms. And they're like, yo, that's in range. And so I've been giving her talking points to help her move through the system. And it's amazing. I watched her do it yesterday. She's like, I called and I said this and they said no. And I said, respond like this. And then she texted me back. She's like, oh, they gave me an appointment. And I was like, right. She goes, what did I say that got them to give me the appointment? I said, oh, I told you to say this. And she was like, right. She goes, oh, that's what did it? And I was like, yeah. So you just sometimes need to know, you need to know for yourself and know how to, and people say advocate, but I just think it's, sometimes they just don't even know on the doctor's side. Anyway, a pump now.
So he's on Tandem. And so, his 4-year warranty or whatever it is with Tandem ends like literally the week he starts college next year.
Really?
So I'm a little freaking out about that, but he's doing great with Tandem.
Good.
He loves it.
Control IQ using the T-Slim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
How long's he been automated?
So he was diagnosed in May. He went on the pump in August.
Oh.
So a few months later.
Oh, I see. How does that work for A1C, for variability, that kind of stuff?
We got his A1C down initially to 5.8, and I was thrilled, but I was also micromanaging. We were having some major sleep deprivation in our family due to the micromanaging. And so we compromised. The doctor really felt like sleep was super important. And so I've eased up a little. His A1C is around 6 now, maybe 6.1. I'm okay with that. We're sleeping better. I'd like it to be in the 5s, and I know we'll get there. But
well, first of all,
sleep
6
is a huge deal in my house.
Yeah.
I told you I'm a napper.
She said before we started recording, she's like, after we do this, I'm going to take a nap. And I was like, oh, do you think this will make you tired? She goes, no, I just take naps. So listen, a 6, a 6.1, a 5.8, it's all great. You know what I mean? That's fantastic. Yeah. Sleep is not just important in your house. It's important for everybody. You know, I don't say this enough anymore, but when you degrade from lack of sleep, you kind of don't see it happening, and your personality changes and your health changes and everything drifts away on you. But it happens so slowly that it's like that frog in a pot situation. You don't realize you're boiling to death. It happens so slowly. So it's not just a little important. And I would say a 6.1 A1C and you're sleeping through the night is pretty freaking amazing. So
I'm okay with it. I really am.
Yeah.
I'm all about health and fitness. I listen to tons of podcasts and read stuff, and sleep is key.
Yeah, no, very much is. It also helps with insulin regulation, being rested. So does he manage this mostly on his own now that you said you loosened the reins, or are you involved?
He really does. Like, his range is actually lower than mine for his alerts. He's 80 to 180, but he doesn't really go 180. Mine's 80 to 200. So my alerts don't go off until 200. So if he's at 200, but we text diabetes and we have keywords. So if he's high, he's like, I got it, or I'll text him insulin. And if he's low, I got it, and I'll text him eat. And that's it.
Yeah.
So those are our keywords.
How is that relationship maturing between the two of you? Is he okay with your involvement still?
I think he would like me a little less involved, but then there are those nights where his alerts don't wake him and I'm doing Find My iPhone to get him up. And I'd like to think when he is an adult and on his own, he will be thankful that I am up his you-know-what. But I do, like, I'm not up his you-know-what, 24/7. There are times where it'll alert me, and I know that he takes care of it. He doesn't ignore it. He really doesn't. He knows the consequences.
I'm always amused, I think, by the leave me alone. I don't need your help. Like, I'm an adult, blah, blah, blah. And then at 2:00 in the morning, I would really like your help, please. Like, I don't want to do that part. I don't know if you've experienced that or not, but
the truth is, when I alert him, I have no idea what he's pressing. Like, he knows how much insulin he needs to give himself if he's high. I don't tell him how much to give him. If he doesn't come down in a timely manner that I would like, I'll be like, you need more. Whatever that number is, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll just say more.
I'm always cracked up when Arden is like, look, I don't need you involved in this. Like, if she'll say something, like, she really does not like me to be involved in her thyroid medication. Like, because if she forgets it, she doesn't want to be reminded that she forgot it. And like that kind of thing. So I don't talk to her about it, and, etc. Like, so it's one of the things where we're not we're not talking about it. But even around the diabetes stuff, like, she'll be like, I know what I'm doing. I don't need you to tell me. I've already bolused. I've taken care of it. Like, you get all that. And then like 3 or 4 days later, she's like, hey, I'm really tired. So if my blood sugar gets crazy overnight, could you help me? And I'm like, oh, so I'm a pain in the ass during the day, but at night, I'm like, oh, okay. And I hear, like, you know what I mean? Like, but to me, it's like when they have a job and they're like, I can handle this. Then one day they're like, you're going to pay for this, right? I'm like, oh, I see. Anyway.
I have to say, Mason has not asked me for help, but like I said, I'd like to think at some point he'll appreciate that I was there. Truthfully, like, I don't care how old you are. If you have diabetes, I think there should be a backup person. Yeah. There should just be somebody there to help you, whether it's your parent, your wife, your husband, your partner. You should not do this disease on your own. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, it's a lot. He will appreciate it. He'll never tell you, but he'll appreciate it. Yeah. By the way, every parent's the clarion call from every parent. Like, I hope that one day they'll understand. I'm like, yeah, okay.
My hope, truthfully, is that down the line when he's older, that we all as a family can say that we did our best to minimize any damage from this disease. That just would be my hope.
Yeah.
And I feel, we are doing the best we can. And, I think technology has made this disease much more manageable. I mean, I know things can still happen, but I'd like to think
you're minimizing
the
possibilities. Yeah, listen, Arden and I were, like I said, we were in the car a lot yesterday. And I said to her, I'm like, because she's taking some GLP meds to, help with her PCOS, which is, and you're getting the added benefit of even greater stability, blood sugars, using less insulin, that kind of thing. And I said to her, I was like, I know that when you think of the GLP medication, we're having trouble getting her dose right because the pen only comes in a certain amount. But the truth is she just doesn't need that much because she's not looking for like all the satiation and like not looking not to eat. You know what I mean? So we're trying to find the balance and we're working on that, right? It's taking time. And she's like, in the past, she's been a little bit like, I know you're very worried about my blood sugars. I was like, listen, that's not the only thing this medication's doing for you. And I said, there's just a study now that came out that said that they think the studies with Ozempic, but I mean, it's a GLP medication about like the lessening of kidney disease and specifically kidney disease in people with type 1 diabetes and heart disease. And like, you have no idea like how many people die from a heart attack, but it's a complication of diabetes,
Sure.
So I'm like, so this medication's helping with, possible kidney. It's helping possibly with your heart. It's helping with your day to day as far as how much insulin you're using. You use less insulin, you're less likely to have a low blood sugar. It's helping with stability. It's helping keep spikes away. Like, it's helping with inflammation. It's helping with your PCOS symptoms. Like, it's doing so many things for you. But it's funny when she stops and thinks about it, all she considers is, oh, I know my blood, because it's the thing that's in her face. Like, yeah, oh, my blood sugars are easier, better, less volatile, etc. because of it. And it's just hard for kids to hold all that in their head sometime, I think. Like, all the things that are, all the considerations that you're not exactly speaking about day to day, I guess.
Well, I think sooner or later, all the GLP medication will be a pill and it'll be super easy to take it. That's my prediction.
My expectation, because Novo's working on it now, like a daily pill. So we'll see what happens. But dosing is going to be super important, especially for people with type 1. You're looking for the impact, but not all of the like, Jesus, I can't eat. Like, because Arden lost weight. I mean, you kind of can't help it. You know what I mean? Truth is she's a few pounds lighter than she wants to be. And she's trying to put it back on, but it's hard to put back on because it makes it hard for you to eat. So so it's like, and I don't want her to have another struggle. Like, we want the benefit, but we don't want this. So we're working with a doctor to try to find ways to, get the good without the bad in her situation. Now, meanwhile, for me, it's not wanting to eat a whole lot is great because I actually had weight that I should have lost and needed to lose. Anyway, hey, 37 minutes, 42 seconds. Why'd you come on the podcast?
Well, you posted, tell me why you should be on in 10 words or less. So
did I do that? What a dick I am. I'm such a dick. Is that what I did?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to read all your thoughts. Just like sell me real quick. So what, back then when you booked, you were I have your notes here. Hold on a second. It says, I'm actually quite curious why GAD and C-peptide testing is not done routinely when diabetes is suspected. Applies mostly to adults since they're more likely to be diagnosed type 2 just based on age. How come this got into your head?
So I'll tell you why. Because I have PCOS and my mom has type 2, my grandma had type 2, I am terrified of getting it. And I work out every day. I eat really well. It is like my biggest fear to get type 2. And so one day I'm on Facebook and I'm scrolling through, and all of a sudden this live platform from a local hospital came on, and they had opened a PCOS center. And so I was listening to all the doctors talk about their intentions with this new facility they were starting. And the endocrinologist came on, and I'm like, I'm going to make an appointment with her. So I made an appointment, and she's like, I can't believe that you have PCOS. I'm like, I do. I have 5 frozen embryos, that I'm still paying rent on to prove that I was infertile, and a very strong family history. And she's like, and this is what she said to me. If you start showing signs of diabetes, I would test you for type 1, but only because you have a family history. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that is the most ridiculous statement ever. I mean, listen, I know we live in a bubble. I know that type 1 is, we're consumed with it. We're on a zillion pages. It's all we talk about. It's all we know. But the stories of the people who are type 2, who are misdiagnosed, it's just a freaking blood test.
Yeah.
Why do these doctors just look at someone and based on their age and maybe their weight, do they make these assumptions when all they have to do is a blood test?
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
That's how their job works, though. Like, I've said this before, but a friend of mine's a pediatrician. And when you come in with an illness, his first consideration is, what does he see other people being sick with in town? That's how he figures out about, which way to look initially. What's common? There's a saying, and what do they say in medicine? The most common, why can't I think of what the hell do you know what I'm talking about? Hold on a second. Watch this. Let's really let's really test ChatGPT. Doctors have a saying that is like, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck,
it must be a duck.
But that's not the saying.
Is that how ChatGPT works? I've never used it.
I am talking about, if it comes up with this, I'm going to make like a little giddy noise. Yeah, this is the one the doctors use. When you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Because the most common conditions are more likely than the rare ones. That's literally
I
how
understand.
they're taught.
And I know type 1 is, quote unquote rare, but it's just a blood test, and it can make all the difference in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So
I hear you.
Why not?
Listen, I'm with you, but the answer is what is there? 1.8 million people with type 1 diabetes, and a lot more people than that. And that's why. Yeah, and you're sensitive to it for the same reason I am, and for the same reason everybody else is. But let us pause for a second and just say that ChatGPT 4.0, holy hell.
That was pretty impressive.
Wait till this thing leaps a couple more levels. I'm going to be like, hey, do you know I have full on conversations with it about like all kinds of stuff? And
I don't even know how to access it. Do you just like put it in the Google search bar and
put it in the Google?
Is it an app? I have I'm telling you, I'm not tech savvy.
So I'm paying for ChatGPT 4.0. I pay for it. I use it for the podcast. I make images with it. I feed it transcripts, and it pulls content out for me so that if I need a list of things, it's pretty awesome. It does a lot of different stuff. My son uses it like in work. But I mean, I said to it, doctors have a saying that is like, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, but that's not the saying I'm talking about. Also, I didn't spell quacks right. And it came back and said, the saying you're referring to is, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it probably is a duck. This phrase is often used to suggest that the most obvious explanations is usually the correct one. However, there are other sayings used in the medical field that convey similar ideas of common sense or straightforward reasoning, such as, and then it listed the goddamn thing I was thinking of that I couldn't come up with. And that's crazy.
That is pretty amazing.
Yeah. We should ask it more things. You should see the breakdown it did for me for GAD antibody testing and for C-peptide in case it came up in our conversation today.
Wow.
Yeah. I know it sounds like I prepped a little bit. Don't I did. I actually did. I was like,
well, I'm just glad I didn't have to do my hair and makeup. So.
I just don't know enough. I'm not versed well enough in GAD and C-peptide to just off the top of my head talk about it without having a little backup. So I put it there. But yeah, I mean, I take your point. Like, you know, there's same people who say, like, why don't they, when you come in with flu-like symptoms, why don't they just test your blood sugar? And the answer is because 99 out of 100 times it's the flu. That's why. But then one kid goes into DKA or, you know, passes away or something like that. And everybody's like, it would have been so cheap to do the thing. And that's not wrong either. I always have to like put myself in the position of the other people who only had the flu, who are probably like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Would they appreciate it, or would they say, why, if it's most likely the flu, why did you give me this blood test? Like, there's arguments on both sides of everything, you know?
I do have to say, I am very nervous for Mason to outgrow his pediatric endocrinologist. She said she would keep him until he's 22 and 364 days old. So I'm very happy about that. But I just feel like adult endocrinologists do not know type 1 the way a pediatric does. So
certainly.
That is a fear of mine.
Finding a good one it's a Herculean lift.
Yeah.
It is not easy. Yeah. So you need to be good at it yourself so that you can
I agree.
Common sense troubleshoot what's being said to you or what's happening to you. And the other thing is, I mean, we talked about it earlier, right? Like, people don't really focus on everything. Like Arden with the GLP, like she's like, yeah, it makes my A1C, not my A1C, it makes my variability. Like, that's what GLP basically does for us. It uses less insulin. It's a fairly significant amount less, but the variability is so much less. And she doesn't have crazy variability to begin with, and it still helps to squeeze it all out. But if you were to ask her right then and there, what does GLP do for you? She'd say the thing that's obvious to her day to day. And I think that's the same thing with trying to be your own physician is difficult, because there's a lot going on that you're not seeing, and you have no real reason to think about it, and you may not even know to think about it. So you do count on a doctor to know these things, and then you get to them and they don't seem to know either. And that's why you see people tumble into trouble and then go out into communities to figure out answers, then have to come back to the doctor and say, look, I basically just Dr. Housed myself. Now you tell me if you think I'm right, and let's get moving.
Right. Yeah, no, I do think people have to really be their own advocate and do research for everything.
Listen, that's where I love the ChatGPT. Like, that's where I love the algorithm. Like, because you can sit down and say, I'm having this symptom. You can actually sit with it and say, hey, I'm this old. I have type 1 diabetes. I have celiac, and I've had a weight issue in the past. Remember that, and it'll apply that to its memory of you. And then you can say, can I have a conversation with you about some things that have been going on with me? And I've done that to figure things out. Listen, when my son was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, I figured out that he had Hashimoto's at 3:00 in the morning. And I was in an NIH article, reading a goddamn NIH article to see one goddamn symptom that he had that was completely uncommon. And I figured out that he had Hashimoto's, and I went back to the doctor and I said, this is what this is. Start giving him this medication. Gave him the medication, cleared up the symptoms. His whole life got better, etc. But I got lucky. What if my Google Foo wasn't that good? But now I would have gone to this prompt and said, I'm here to talk about my son. He's this old. These are the symptoms he's having. We've tried this, this, and this. What else could it be? I guarantee it would have come back and said Hashimoto's in 5 minutes. It's not just around health. Like, I have an affiliation with something called Vision AI. They've absorbed at this point about 100 episodes of the podcast into the AI's understanding of diabetes. It gets its information from other places as well. I'm pretty much ready to tell people, for $20 a month, which is what I pay for it, you can have a doctor in your pocket that you can sit and have a conversation with, and it's going to come up with the answers. You just have to ask the questions. With ChatGPT, you can do it with anything. Like, I didn't have a will, and I didn't understand what to do. And I just sat down and started talking to it about that. And then I was like, oh, this is here's the things I have to do, and here's the people I have to call. I understand now. And that's it. It's 5 minutes, because you're talking to somebody who knows the whole internet. and won't sit around and go, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, could it be that? It doesn't do that. It goes, here's your options. And then you go, oh, okay, cool. It's super.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Listen, unless it launches a missile at Milwaukee and then not so great, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'm choosing to believe that's not going to happen, or any other things. Like anything else, somebody's going to use it for good and somebody's going to use it for bad.
Oh,
but
of course.
Yeah. But I think people can use it for good. Like even think about, I don't know, like saving money for the future. You can say, I make this much money. These are my bills. How much money can I afford to put into a 401k? At standard rates, how much do you think that'll be if I continue to put that much money in for 5 years, for 10 years? And it just spits it back out at you. You don't have to guess at big life things. You know what I mean? I'm going to buy a car. Here's the interest rate. How much would it cost me overall if I put down this much versus this much? What if this interest rate versus this many years? And in 2 seconds, the stuff that you think you could figure out on your own, that most people don't bother looking into. They just go buy the car and they take whatever, and they go, oh, okay, great, I'll take this one. I can afford that payment. And I'm telling you, I'm sorry, I'm going too far into this, but I really see the high side.
It's fascinating. I'm getting a lesson.
I see the high side in all this, and I'm excited about it. Just imagine you're worried about your son going off to college, right? Do you think he's going to go far?
Yes.
He's getting off the island?
Oh, yeah. He's going down south for sure.
Yeah. Listen, once you put the effort into driving off the island, it's hard to want to put the effort into driving back. I hate driving out there. I don't even know how you...
Yes.
Horrifying. It's horrifying.
I agree.
How far south do you think he'll go?
My older son went to Alabama. My daughter is at Arizona State. I'm putting it out there. He's looking at Tennessee.
Oh,
if anyone, nice. Works at the university there.
Looking for a 17-year-old kid with diabetes, reach out. Arden, you were very kind to push our recording back an hour today.
Oh, no problem.
Because Arden just transferred out of her school.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
She did not like the South. She loved the weather. She's like, even the people were great. She's like, but the lifestyle was like mad. She found it maddening how slow it was.
Okay.
That's not why she left. The school ended up having some pretty significant drop off, even from the amount of time from when she was applying in high school till now. There's plenty of websites where you can see colleges graded out, and the scores from students have dropped so significantly that it went from an A institution to a C institution in people's eyes. And she was having the same problems. So the low light of this whole thing was during a core class last semester. A core meaning something you fundamentally have to master to move on. On day one, the professor said, I guess saying professor is probably me being too kind, said, I've never taught this before. I've never done it professionally. I don't know anything about it.
Oh.
Here's a YouTube video that explains the thing I'm giving you today. If you have questions, don't ask me. So we were paying for that, in case you're wondering.
Yeah, that's definitely a red flag.
Yeah. And so Arden, she humped through it and didn't give up and ended up with, I think, a B+ in the thing. But she said, I got through it, but I don't understand it. I don't know what I did, and I can't move on to the next level. And she was like, what the hell? So she was a very strange person, I think, coming out of high school. She had two ideas of pathways. They're fundamentally completely opposite. So she really wanted to design clothing, and that is what she ended up going to do. But her other option was psychology that leads to law. That's what the other thing she was considering. So Arden just transferred from the Savannah College of Art and Design to Pitt.
Okay, well,
And
certainly the weather is different.
And she's going to start with a psych major and sprinkle in enough law stuff that she'll be ready for law school after she gets her undergrad. So she just put her behind about a year, but
that's okay.
Yeah, but we're not worried about that very much. Listen, if you want my opinion, anybody listening, don't go to the Savannah College of Art and Design there. And if they're listening, you deserve this and a lot more. So nevertheless, her experiences were insane. For 2 years, they were insane. And I will probably let some of them out in dribs and drabs over the next year. because I feel like SCAD might owe me because they have a lot of my money. Anyway.
Well, I hope she has a better experience at Pitt.
I don't see how she couldn't. If someone hits her with a car at Pitt, she'll still end up having a better experience than she had at SCAD.
Well, it's funny because not funny, but I think that there is a rumor, and it might be truth amongst the big schools, that if you get hit by one of the school buses on their property, they pay for your college education. I don't know. That's what I've heard.
That's what I wasn't talking about. I was just saying if something horrific happens to her, it'll still be better than SCAD. Keep that in mind if you're thinking of sending your kids there. My opinion, of course. Anyway, your kid's going off to college. Try imagining if he had literally an app on his phone that he could say, that he could connect his CGM data to and say to this app, no different than I talk to it about things. My blood sugar has been higher lately. Can you look at my insulin use over the last week and tell me where you think an adjustment might be necessary? Keep in mind that I've been, I don't know, like not eating as well as I have in the past. I'm not pre-bolusing as much as I should, blah, blah, blah. And then he could actually have like a quick conversation with it, and it could give him ideas about what to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's
crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. That's going to put me out of business. You understand?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
You don't think the app will tell stories about stuff that you don't think? No. You don't think in the middle of his going back and forth, the app will go, can I tell you something crazy that happened to me?
The one thing that the app doesn't have is the human dimension, the human emotion part of it. And for myself, when I listen to your podcast, I just like hearing people's experiences. And I don't think ChatGPT is giving you someone's human experience. No,
it certainly won't do that. But it's going to be a heck of a helper, I think, especially in a world that we've just described where you say something to a doctor and they go, I don't really know. Also, that's not even a dig on doctors. You can't expect a doctor to have recall of everything that's ever happened to them in med school and life and with every one of their patients. Whereas ChatGPT can recall everything that it knows instantly. So, and it is instant. Like it's insane how fast the information comes back. Nevertheless, so what are you and he doing, or maybe you're not, but what are you doing? What have you done? What are you worried about college? How are you prepping for this?
Well, I used to say I was going to follow him. I have retracted that.
Oh, you mean literally going to Tennessee?
Yeah. Like I said, my older son went to Alabama, and at least from Long Island, Alabama is not so easy to get to. So while that is definitely on Mason's list, it wouldn't be my first choice simply because it's just not easy to get to. He can go as far away as he wants. I'm okay with that. I just want there to be
an airport.
And airports want frequent flights that are reliable. Like the flights to Birmingham would get canceled all the time. It drove me crazy. I want a good medical facility nearby.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth is, at some point we will retire and I'll have to figure out where all three of my kids are. But, I just would like to be easily accessible to him.
Yeah, no, I understand. Again, Savannah had some of the worst hospitals I'd ever been in my entire life. And I had to be in one time. It was a horrifyingly bad experience. They did have an airport you could fly into. That was nice. But yeah, I think those are good considerations. Good medical care, accessibility. Because the driving thing, the truth is once you're more than 3 hours away, you're 100 hours away in an emergency situation. It just doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? Unless I can drive to you and be there in an hour, I'm not much help in an emergency situation. Getting to an airport. And what do you fly to JFK, LaGuardia?
JFK, LaGuardia. I live near MacArthur, but the only nonstop flights from there to Florida.
Right.
So.
And those are hubs too. So you probably have more options leaving there. But still, you got to drive there. You got to get on a plane. Yeah. You got to fly. Sure. You got to get off a plane. You're always at least, listen, it's a 45-minute flight from where I am to Boston, but it still takes 5 hours to fly to Boston.
Of course. Yeah. Of course.
So, yeah.
And, Mason turns 18 in January. So then there's all, the legal mumbo jumbo we need to take care of, So you
can actually talk to people.
Exactly. Which is mind boggling to me that a vulnerable population has to have all this paperwork in order for their parents, who pays for everything, to have a conversation with a doctor.
How about they're willing to take $200,000-$300,000 worth of loans out in 18-year-olds' names for them to do a thing that they're not even sure if they want to do or not? Like, it's weird, the things that, you know what I mean?
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
But putting them in charge of their own health, I mean, come on. Like, you know what I mean?
And under my insurance. So, like, I'm paying the bills. I'm paying for college. I'm paying for the bills. And, you know, we have to sign our life away in order to talk to anybody.
Yeah. It's interesting. Wow. Yeah. And by the way, if your kid won't give you that access, or...
Oh, he will.
Yeah. Jennifer's like, if he wants me to pay for college, he's definitely going to do it. So you'll follow him on his CGM, though? You guys will keep up the thing you're doing right now?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we have a good thing going right now.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
My husband will not be happy with me if I don't bring up my gripe with insurance companies.
Go ahead. Why not?
If we have a...
Let's finish strong with your husband bitching at insurance companies through a proxy. Go ahead.
No. Because I'm constantly complaining. He's like, well, you're going to have a platform, so you better do something about it. He is convinced that we as a type 1 community should rise up and have a class action suit against, I don't know who, but I have a real problem with the whole 90-day supply. And I know some people have 30-day supplies, whatever. I have a 90-day supply of our CGMs and our insulin. I do not understand why the action to start getting your next 90 days starts on the 90th day.
Yeah. You mean
it drives me crazy. Yeah. And, you know, not every month is 30 days. Some are 31. And so you don't necessarily, you have less than a 90, less than a 92-day supply. It's just mind-boggling to me that the process isn't initiated like, say, day 75. So that if for some reason you need to renew a prescription or you need to go to the doctor because you haven't been there in more than 3 months, like there's just not some leeway. And I know it's all about money. I get it. But
no, it's infuriating when it happens. Yeah. When you're out of CGMs and you call them up and you're like, hey, listen, he's wearing his last CGM right now. I need these in 6 days. And we don't have extras. And they go, oh, you know what it looks like? We need a pre-authorization from the doc. We'll call the doctor for you. And by the way, good luck. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so then, like a week later, it's 1 day late. You've got 1 day left in the CGM. You go, hey, how come the CGMs aren't here? And they go, oh, your doctor never responded. So you call the doctor and they go, they never called us. And you're like, oh my God, this is what I'm stuck in right now. And then you yell for a while and then they go, oh, we'll overnight you some. You're saying, why don't we have that conversation maybe two weeks before that?
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's ridiculous. And I know I'm not the only person who's in this situation. So if there is some kind of legal expert on the Juicebox Podcast Facebook page that wants to initiate this, I'm all for it.
Yeah, oh my God.
To do something about it.
You know you're in trouble when you're like, we got to sue somebody. Who? You're like, I don't know who.
Listen, I'm not a litigious person.
No. But I heard what you're saying. Yeah.
I don't want to be desperate. And I also don't want to be ridiculed for hoarding supplies either, because
who's ridiculing you?
Not me personally, but you've seen the people who are like, well, you're hoarding supplies, therefore you're limiting the availability of supplies for other people.
I don't see anybody. I don't see any company not making supplies.
That, especially with regards to insulin. But
well, it's funny because there's so many different arguments going on right now. So first of all, like if you're talking about insulin sets or CGMs or stuff like these companies are thrilled to sell this stuff. Trust me, they'll make as much as they need to make. You having an extra 2 weeks of insulin pumps isn't stopping somebody else from having insulin pumps.
Agreed.
Yeah. The insulin thing, everybody's panicking right now because some of the big companies seem to be prioritizing GLPs over anything else. Like forget insulin for a second. And people are like, oh, there's going to be a problem. There's not going to be insulin. I understand the concern, and I do think you want to keep pressure on the companies to not get lazy about it. But I have a hard time picturing a world where companies who make insulin just go, oh, we're not going to make insulin anymore.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to stop making it, but there are definitely people who are having trouble getting it.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I also think that if that happened, I imagine the federal government would step up and say, you're making insulin, just shut up.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't, like, could it be harder to get in the moment? Like, for some people, obviously it is. You're hearing that from people, right? But if you're imagining a world where insulin just is not produced anymore and you die because of it, that's not going to happen.
No, I'm not imagining that. Yeah. Although I do.
No, but I think people
I do follow a diabetic prepper page. I will admit that.
But I imagine that there are people who are thinking that, like, one day they're going to stop making it because it's not going to make them enough money. I'm like, no one's going to let them stop making insulin.
I know.
They can be compelled to do it if they try to stop, and they know that, and that's why they're not going to try to stop. It's not even my opinion. It's my expectation of the way I would see that going if it went that way.
I think COVID scared a lot of people, like with regards to like Clorox wipes, for instance. You know, how hard was it to get Clorox wipes? I mean, there was a patient who brought a container to my husband's office so that I could have some Clorox wipes. And I think that that's kind of what people are imagining. Like, it might be so hard to get.
Well, I don't know. I think we might have learned our lesson on the microchip thing from COVID. So we moved a lot of microchip production back to the US. So, I mean, at least that they paid attention to that. I don't know. Like, listen, I could be 1,000,000% wrong, but if I wake up one day and every company making insulin, it's like, we're not making insulin anymore. You can't have insulin. All you people with diabetes can just die. I'd be like, I was really wrong about that.
No, I don't think that will happen. But again, I don't think somebody should have to wait until the 90th day.
No, I agree with you.
For them to get their insulin.
It's just such an unnecessary stress.
You're right.
On you, right?
Uh-huh. I mean, hours I've spent on the phone with insurance company and the doctor, and
right.
It's like my life taken away.
Yeah, and not everybody's gonna have that time or the fortitude or both. You know,
of course not,
to have that fight, and that's how they end up in that situation, and they get beaten by the system and they give up. But you know,
yes, and then when my son turns 18, I will need his permission to do all this, and so, like, does he have to be standing next to me when I call the insurance company to get his approval to talk to me so that I can get his insulin?
I'll tell you something. My wife's name is Kelly, which can be an androgynous name. So there are times I just call up and I'm like, hey, this is Kelly. And they go, you're Kelly? And I go, yep, I'm Kelly. And then there's this like long pause where they don't believe you, and I just wait. And they go, okay, Kelly, what's up? I just start talking. But listen, I'm no comp sci genius, okay? But I don't think it would take one to build into the system the ability to talk to people a couple of weeks out and to create a system between the pharmacy, I mean, the places where you're buying your stuff, either the pharmacy or the distributors or whatever, and the insurance companies, where you could just let them have the conversations, get things shipping in time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, what's the worst that could happen is you ship out a couple of CGMs and then you don't get paid for them. Like, what do you care? Like, stop it. There's so much money in that industry. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you know what I mean? Stuff that's life and death, and the cost to you at the end user is so significant. But to the companies that are moving it around, it's not like when you buy $600 worth of stuff, they're out $600 worth of stuff. It's not how it works. They're making money on it, which is fair and fine and all. But like, don't act like it would be such a horrible thing if somebody ended up with an extra 30 insulin pumps, pods, you know, like it would ruin the whole system. And if it did, if it got messed up, then fix the system. But make it so that there's a buffer in there so that people don't have to rush around at the very end.
It's just common sense to me.
Yeah, and seems easy, to be honest.
Yeah.
It seems like if a group of people wanted to fix that problem, they could.
Yes, and I would love to be a part of that movement.
Well, go take a nap, and then once you've got...
I am a self-declared follower. I am not a leader, but I'm definitely a follower. So if somebody wants to initiate that, I'm right on board to help you out.
Jennifer will stand behind you and scream, yes, that's right.
I'm a cheerleader.
Yeah.
I'm a total cheerleader.
Fantastic. Is there anything we haven't talked about that we should have?
I don't think so. I'm running the New York City Marathon for Breakthrough T1D, if anyone wants to come cheer me on. So
I'll look for you in the crowd.
Okay. Are you going to be there?
No, of course not. I'm very busy.
Okay. Well, then look for me on TV.
When is the marathon?
November 3rd.
2025?
2024.
Oh, well, you expect people to hear about that on this podcast? Almost like a July, August, September,
okay,
October, November,
fine.
December, January.
Well,
yeah. So good luck. I hope it went well.
Thanks.
No one's going to be there rooting for you that heard this. Unless they have a time machine. And if you have a time machine, please come pick me up. I have some things I'd like to take care of right now.
All right. Well, hopefully it'll be a great marathon.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll do terrific. How long do you have to train for it?
Oh, I've run many marathons, so I'm constantly training. So it's not my
no kidding. I'm going to walk slowly down the stairs in a couple of minutes when we get done talking. I don't. I run down the stairs usually, but
good.
I don't run.
I'm sure with your weight loss that it
would be much easier. Oh my God, amazing. Oh yeah, you have no idea.
So are you like on a workout regimen now?
I'm slowly easing into it. I've come to grips with the fact that I am not at my core a person who's excited to work out. I love working. I like doing my job. Mm-hmm. And so the idea of breaking out time to do something like that seems like wasted time to me. I know it's not. I understand. Trust me, I understand the bigger picture. But I have so much to do. I do the job of many people. And I do it every day, all day long, sometimes all night long. And I really like it. I don't know. It's just strange for me to think that people stop working at 5 o'clock and go to a gym or a walk or do a thing. I'm like, oh my God, there's so much stuff to get done. And it's so invigorating to get it finished. Now I realize I'll drop dead and won't be able to do it anymore. So I'm trying to find the middle ground of that.
What about your mornings?
I don't even eat breakfast. I just get up and start working. I get up, I take a shower, and I work. And I work until I get hungry, and then I eat something. And normally I eat something while I'm working.
So get up and go for a walk and then take a shower.
Oh my God, that sounds horrible. How early do I have to get up to make that all happen? I need to sleep.
What time do you wake up?
Generally, I open my eyes between 7 and 7:30.
Oh, so even in the dead of winter, the sun is up.
I had to go outside when it's cold.
Listen, if you want to do treadmill, I'm all about
treadmill.
Keeping active.
I'm not buying a treadmill. Hold on a second.
Okay, well then, yeah, you got to go outside when you're cold.
Yeah,
when it's cold.
There's no answer. So what you're saying is just die.
I'm saying find a way to be active so you don't die.
I'm trying to find a way to do something that is counterintuitive to me. The actual doing it, I don't mind. You understand, the exercise part, I'm okay with. It's not like I'm doing it, I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. I'm happy to do it. It's the time to do it that I don't know how to give away. Don't you feel like life is so short?
You know what? I wake up, I have my coffee, and I work out. And it's I don't even think about it. That's just my routine.
I think about life being so short, and there are so many things that I want to do, and doing things that don't add to that feel like an insane waste of my time.
I don't know. I look at it like I'm doing this so that I can do what I want for as long as I want.
I agree with you. But I bet if I asked ChatGPT, if I worked out 2 hours a day for the rest of my life, how long would it extend my life? And then I asked it how much time I spent working out, I might lose as much time working out as I get in the extension. And now I'm younger and more thoughtful.
But what if you looked at working out the way you look at your job? You enjoy your job. You don't like working out. Not everyone likes working out. I just feel personally that it's a necessity. It's just a part of life. It's just a part of my day.
I agree with you. You're missing my point, Jennifer. I 100 million% agree with you on all of the reasons why working out is important. I don't want to be like a person with no muscle tone in my 60s. You know what I mean? I know that leads to all kinds of problems. I'm not arguing with any of that. I'm saying that there's a disconnect in there because I do so much stuff with my mind and with my voice and I see the countless people that it helps constantly. And it seems like when I'm not doing that, it feels like a waste of time. It just does. And I know the argument. I understand the bigger argument. If you work out longer, you'll be able to do this longer, that kind of stuff. You'll stay alive longer, etc. But if I'm trading 5 years, hold on a second. How much do you work out in time?
Anywhere from an hour to 3 hours a day.
So if I work out 2 hours a day for 10 years, how much time did I give to working out? It's giving me, I should have said, don't give me the math. I don't need the math. So if you work out 2 hours a day for 10 years, you'll spend, do you know how many hours? Do you want to guess?
No, I mean, I'm not going to guess. You can tell me.
7,300 hours.
I love it.
And that is 304. It's a year of your life. So in the next 10 years, you're going to give away a year of it to working out. How much?
I'm okay with that. I feel like the sacrifice is worth it. And I think if you worked out, start a half hour a day. I think the Juicebox podcast will be okay with you without you for a half hour a day.
You don't see them. They're coming for me from every direction. You have no idea.
I know, but you have to find a balance.
I know.
You have to take time for yourself too. Self-care.
All right. So ChatGPT said, I asked it, I said, how much does the workout extend my life if I'm a 53-year-old man? Because I'm a 53-year-old man. Research indicates that regular physical activity can add several years to one's life. For instance, a study published people who engage in regular and moderate exercise at least 150 minutes a week, lived about 3.5 to 4 years longer than those who didn't. So if I give up...
That's 150 hours. So 150 minutes, right?
Yeah, it's two. Okay, listen, that I can make sense of.
Yeah, that's a lot of time you're adding to your life.
Yeah, so okay. See, this is a good conversation.
Just do a half hour a day.
What are you, a
Start
Nike?
With a half hour
what are you, a Nike commercial? You led with just do it?
I'm definitely not Nike, but, and I'm not going there. But, half hour a day, go out for a walk. It's summer. You have no excuse in terms of cold weather.
It's very humid, but go ahead.
I know, I ran in it today, but it's a half hour and you're walking. You can handle that humidity.
All right, it says, given the scenario of a 53-year-old man working 2 hours a day, the life expectancy increase could be notable. While it's difficult to quantify precisely, you could potentially add several years to your life. What if I just did?
But let's not talk about adding years to your life. How about quality of life?
I mean,
because you don't want to get into your 80s and just sit there at your computer.
I don't.
Do you?
Although I mean, everything I need is right here.
I understand that, but you still want to be able to travel with your children and grandchildren.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I think about that stuff all the time. It just doesn't correlate into me getting up and stop. I'm a hard worker. Like I want to do this job.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
But I mean, I'm like wired that way is what I'm saying. All right, but this thing here says 150 minutes a week could add 3.4 to 4.5 years to life expectancy. I'm willing to do that.
And honestly, if you're on these medications, you really should be doing some sort of exercise. I'm no expert. I know,
No, for muscle, 100%. No, you're 1,000,000% right. But also the medications also keeping inflammation away. I'm probably going to live forever. So I'm going to want more.
Well, okay. But you want to live well. You don't want to just live forever. You want to live well.
Yeah. I didn't really mean forever. I just meant like a little older.
No, I know. It's not just all about how long you're going to live. It's just how well you're going to live.
Yeah.
No,
I'm with you. I'm not. I'm not arguing with you, right?
No, okay. No, of course not. My 81-year-old dad was supposed to come in next week to visit, and my stepmom just called me up, and she's like, "I don't think we can come," and it makes me sad that it's too much for him.
Yeah.
Come in.
No, I mean, listen, my mom passed at 81, but she was fighting issues since her 60s. Like my mom had a pacemaker when she was in her 60s, and she eventually had cancer. She was older. And I think that the one thing that my mom's life kind of told me was you can plan to live till you're 90, but it doesn't mean you're going to be doing anything.
Exactly.
She didn't have a bad life or anything like that. It's not like when she was 79, she was like, I wish I was dead. She was having a grand old time till she got cancer. You know what I mean? But her life was pretty, contained. She didn't do a lot of things anymore. She did do a lot of traveling earlier in her life after she retired. But yeah, I mean, listen, you're 100% right. I'm not inclined towards it. I don't enjoy it. And
a lot of people don't.
Right.
Maybe even most people don't.
And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do things you don't enjoy. I do plenty of things I don't enjoy. I'm married, for God's sakes. Go ahead, Jennifer. You can laugh if you want. You're married. You understand.
I'm not going there.
No, okay. So like, I'm not against doing things I don't want to do, especially if they're beneficial to me and, and to my family, etc. It's not a thing. Like if they told me that making awesome podcast content was exercise, I'd be Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 70s.
100%. Yeah. I know you would.
Yeah.
I know you would.
Why won't these motherfuckers let me do that for exercise? Who's in charge of all this, Jennifer? Who made these rules up? Arden and I had this conversation the other day. Menstruation. It's going to sound disconnected for a second, but
okay.
And then I'll let you go. But I said, menstruation is my clearest idea that there can't be a God. And she goes, what? And I said, how is this the plan? If an actual person was sitting and thinking about this, making up the universe, they were like, so there'll be eggs in a little sack. And then and 2 weeks of your life will be miserable. Then a third week of your life while you're miserable, you'll also be bleeding from the hole you pee from. Not exactly the same hole, but close enough. It's going to be very unpleasant. And it's going to be cramped because how will we get the eggs out there in the lining we don't use? You know what? We'll use cramping. That's no one would have planned that like that. And I was like,
you have a great point.
Thank you.
You have a great point.
There's no thinking that you can't tell me something's omnipotent and then tell me that that's the play it came up with to make a baby. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I think that about exercise and food. Why does good food, if somebody was making this up, why is that why my body, like, why doesn't sitting make me strong? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well,
we're being, that's what I'm saying.
And I just want you to live your best life, Scott.
Well, I do too, Jennifer. I appreciate that.
So
is it because
just get out there and take a walk?
You want that because...
And if I'm ever in New Jersey, I'll come walk with you.
Yeah, I don't know how you're getting over that bridge. Horrifying.
Well, yeah.
But is it because I've helped your family significantly and you want me to prosper?
You have. And I will tell you the defining moment for me, because I remember it so well, was listening to an episode about pre-bolusing and watching the arrow on the Dexcom go down. And that's when Mason could start eating. And it took me 2 dinners to get the hang of it.
And so like, this really helps.
We had tacos and we waited like 45 minutes and nothing happened. And then the next day I'm like, you're having the exact same meal again. And we're going to pre-bolus it this time. And we watched the arrow and it was a normal pre-bolus time. And it was life-changing for us.
For you. Oh, that's great. I have to tell you, I'm building a list right now in the Facebook group, which you won't be able to find by the time you're hearing this. But basically, I've been feeding all my episodes into an AI and asking it to pull out the colloquialisms that help people. I got a good starting list, and now online people are adding to it with the things that have been said in the podcast over the years that they found really helpful that I almost wouldn't know to point to. It's turning into a great list. I'm going to turn it into a series for the podcast. And the truth is, this is the first thing I've considered writing down and like making available in writing. Because I think it really would be helpful for people, like little things like stop the arrow or more insulin and like little like just things that stick in your head that make you
Scott-isms.
Yeah, the isms, not me, but yeah. What the things that help you make decisions like that. So okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna go and thank you very much. This was wonderful. I really do appreciate it.
It was. It went in a totally different direction than I thought it would.
Now I never know how this is going to go. To be perfectly honest with you,
I'm sure you don't.
Yeah, that's part of the joy of it. We're just chatting. So thanks again. Hold on 1 second for me. Guys, you want to go for a walk with Touched by Type 1 in Orlando? You can do it, and you can have a great time, meet a lot of wonderful people. touchedbytype1.org. Go to the programs tab, click on Steps to a Cure, and get yourself registered right now for the beautiful walk that's coming up on March 8th in Orlando. touchedbytype1.org. I'd like to thank Dexcom for sponsoring this episode of the Juicebox Podcast. And at the same time, I want to remind you that seeing your blood glucose levels in real time, not only the number, but the speed and the direction, is going to help you in ways that you maybe can't imagine right now. You should definitely check it out at dexcom.com/juicebox. And this is your chance, CozyEarth.com. What's it your chance to do? It's your chance to get something that's beautiful, lovely, thoughtful, and doesn't say last minute. CozyEarth.com. Use the offer code JUICEBOX at checkout. Are you starting to see patterns, but you can't quite make sense of them? You're like, oh, if I bolus here, this happens, but I don't know what to do. Should I put in a little less, a little more? If you're starting to have those thoughts, if you're starting to think, this isn't going the way the doctor said it would, I think I see something here, but I can't be sure. Once you're having those thoughts, you're ready for the Diabetes Pro Tip series from the Juicebox Podcast. It begins at episode 1000. You can also find it at juiceboxpodcast.com up in the menu, and you can find a list in the private Facebook group. Just check right under the featured tab at the top. It'll show you lists of a ton of stuff, including the Pro Tip series, which runs from episode 1000 to 1025. Hey, thanks for listening all the way to the end. I really appreciate your loyalty and listenership. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. The episode you just heard was professionally edited by Wrong Way Recording. WrongWayRecording.com.